My husband refused to take me to his wealthy sister's lavish wedding because he believed my humble job was a stain on his reputation. And he didn't say those words while looking at me, he said them while straightening his tie in front of the mirror, as if I wasn't even standing in the room. I was by the bedroom door, holding the light blue dress I'd bought on clearance 2 months earlier. I had thought, just for one night, maybe I could feel beautiful too. But he never even turned around. People are going to ask questions, he said in a cold, measured voice. Why? My wife works the night shift at a diner. My sister's wedding is full of investors, attorneys, doctors, everyone who's important. I can't make a fool of myself. I looked at him for a few long seconds, then quietly hung the dress back in the closet. Funny thing, even a broken heart has a sound, but it's one only the person carrying it can hear. He walked out. The front door closed, and the whole house fell silent. Our little home in a quiet Chicago suburb, the same white walls, the same open kitchen, the soft glow from the refrigerator light. I stood there staring at it for what felt like forever. The clock read 7 o'clock. The wedding ceremony had to be starting soon. I made myself a cup of coffee, pulled on my old sweater, and switched on the TV. But the noise inside my head was louder than anything playing on the screen. I kept asking myself the same question. What exactly was I being punished for? Because I never became a nurse? Because I dropped out of college to take care of my sick mother? Because these days I worked the night shift at a neighborhood family diner? I had never been ashamed of my work. Every night I served dozens of people with a smile, exhausted truck drivers, police officers, traveling salespeople, late-night nurses finishing their shifts. Most of them knew me by name. But my husband, Daniel, all he ever saw was my uniform. It hadn't always been that way. During our first year of marriage, Daniel was a junior project manager at a small construction company. We didn't have much money. On weekends we'd wander through dollar store aisles, rent old movies, order cheap pizza, and laugh until we fell asleep on the couch. Then everything changed. A promotion. A newer car. A corner office. Board meetings. And a completely different circle of people. His sister, Victoria, changed right along with that new crowd. She had always worshipped money. To her, a person's worth could be measured by their clothes, the car in their driveway, and the zip code on their mailbox. The first time she insulted me, she smiled while saying it. Daniel, honestly, you could have done so much better. She laughed. Everyone else laughed too. Everyone except Daniel. He just stood there, saying nothing. Sometimes, silence is the deepest kind of betrayal. The years rolled by. Every family gathering felt like I had shown up at the wrong address. So, you're still at the diner? Still working nights? That must be difficult. They spoke with fake sympathy, but the judgment in their eyes was impossible to miss. I smiled every single time. Because none of them knew the truth. The truth was, I wasn't just a waitress. I was also a certified emergency response coordinator. I'd earned the certification years earlier while my mother was sick. After that, I volunteered and trained with the County Emergency Management Department, keeping my certification active while continuing to work at the diner. 2 nights a week at the diner. Several emergency response assignments every month. Very few people knew about that part of my life. I had never tried to make it my identity. To me, work was simply work. Around 10 that night, a breaking news alert flashed across my phone. Gas leak triggers emergency at historic North Chicago hotel. I looked at the screen, and my heart seemed to stop for a second. It was the same hotel. The one where Victoria's wedding reception was being held. I sat up instantly. A second later my phone rang. It was the County Emergency Operations Center. Emma, we need another senior coordinator. Are you close enough to respond? I answered with a single word. Yes. 15 minutes later, I was behind the wheel. The same woman. The one her husband had considered too embarrassing to stand beside him only a few hours earlier. Was now driving toward blaring sirens wearing the official jacket of the city's emergency response team. Chaos surrounded the hotel. Fire engines. Ambulances. Police cruisers. People screaming. Guests rushing outside. The gas leak had partially disrupted the building's electrical systems. Several people were believed to be trapped on the upper floors. I grabbed my radio. quickly assessed the situation, and immediately started assigning teams. That's when I saw a familiar face. Daniel. His expensive suit was covered in dust. The color had drained from his face. He was running from one person to another, desperately searching for someone. Then he saw me. For a moment, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His eyes moved to my emergency response jacket. Then to the identification badge clipped to my chest. Then to the firefighters and police officers gathered around me, listening carefully as I issued instructions. Emma. His voice shook. I simply nodded. Victoria. He gasped. She's still upstairs. Please do something. Just a few hours earlier, I wasn't worthy of standing beside him. And now, his eyes were locked on mine, as though the fate of his entire world depended on whatever I said next. The pride in Daniel's eyes was gone, the same pride that, only a few hours earlier, had treated my very existence as an embarrassment to his sister's wedding. Now there was only fear, raw, helpless fear. Emma, please. His voice was breaking. Victoria's in the private suite near the rooftop. I was already speaking into my radio. The smoke filled the hallway. Use the north stairwell. Someone said she's still trapped inside. Activate the ventilation unit immediately. Medical team, stand by in the lobby. The fire captain beside me glanced over. You know the layout. I nodded. I participated in this hotel's emergency response drill 2 years ago. We took off running. The stairwell was thick with smoke. Alarm sirens echoed through every floor. People were screaming, radios crackled non-stop, heavy boots pounded against the concrete steps. Every sound blended into one overwhelming roar. Moments like these leave no room for emotions. Only decisions. And every decision has the power to save a life, or cost one. When we reached the 5th floor, a security guard rushed toward us. The suite's locked. Nobody's answering. I pounded on the door. Victoria. If you're in there, answer me. A few agonizing seconds passed. Then I heard it. A faint, desperate voice. Help. She was alive. The firefighters forced the door open. The smell of gas hit us immediately. Victoria was sitting on the floor, coughing violently. Her heavy wedding gown made it difficult for her to move. I knelt beside her. She looked at me through tear-filled, unfocused eyes. You. Her voice carried surprise, not shame. I adjusted her oxygen mask. We'll talk later. Right now, just keep breathing. We carefully guided her out of the room. As soon as we reached the lobby, the paramedics took over. Daniel ran straight to her. He wrapped his arms around his sister, holding her as though he might lose her all over again. Then he looked at me. He wanted to say something, but no words came. Just then, a police lieutenant walked over. Coordinator Emma, if you hadn't ordered the ventilation system activated when you did, the smoke on the upper floors would have become far more dangerous. Excellent call. I simply nodded. Thank you. But I noticed something. Daniel had heard every word. So had Victoria's new in-laws. The wedding guests. The executives from Daniel's company. Every single person who had believed my job was something to be ashamed of. No one was looking at my uniform anymore. They were looking at my authority, my confidence, and the responsibility I carried. The emergency operation finally ended around 2 in the morning. I had just reached my car when I heard someone behind me. Emma, wait. I turned around. It was Daniel. His hands were trembling. What I said today. I stayed silent. He stepped closer. I was wrong. For the first time that night, I looked directly into his eyes. Wrong. He lowered his head. No. I was cruel. The silence between us felt almost unreal. Somewhere in the distance, another ambulance siren echoed through the sleeping city. I spoke quietly. You know something, when you left me at home tonight? I never once wished something terrible would happen to you. He slowly looked back up. I only wanted you to see one thing someday. I paused. A person's worth is never measured by what's printed on their paycheck. Tears filled his eyes. Please, come home. I slowly shook my head. No. His face fell. Why? I took a long, steady breath. Because tonight, for the very first time, I realized I've spent years living in your house, but I was never truly part of your life. He couldn't answer. Emma, please. Just give me one more chance. A small smile crossed my face. Tonight you asked me to save your sister's life. I did. And I did. I let those words settle between us. But my own life. I opened my car door. I'm not giving that back. I drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could still see him standing there long after the hotel disappeared behind me. Maybe for the first time. He understood something. Marriages rarely end because of one sentence. They end after years of quiet humiliation. 3 months later, I accepted a full-time position with the city's emergency management department. On my final night at the diner, my regular customers surprised me with a small farewell party. The truck driver who always ordered meatloaf. The retired gentleman who came in every Friday for the same cup of coffee. The police officer who insisted I made the best pancakes in Cook County. Every one of them showed up. That night I realized something. Respect isn't always found inside glamorous hotel ballrooms. Sometimes it's found in a little neighborhood diner, where people know your name, not your job title. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Daniel tried reaching out more than once. Long emails. Heartfelt apologies. Flowers delivered to my apartment. But some doors don't stay closed because of hatred. They stay closed because you've finally learned your own worth. One night, around 3 in the morning, I stood by the window of my new apartment with a mug of coffee in my hands. The city was quiet. The soft glow from the refrigerator still lit the kitchen, just like it always had. But one thing was different. This home belonged to me. The silence belonged to me. And the woman staring back from the reflection in the window was no longer someone's embarrassment. She was the heroine of her own story. That night I finally understood something that changed me forever. Sometimes the greatest twist of fate isn't watching the people who look down on you finally bow their heads. Sometimes the greatest victory is realizing that, by the time they do, you no longer need them to. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that self-worth is more valuable than anyone's approval, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful, emotional stories. Your support truly means a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.